A song, just keeps tickling the follicles of my memories. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. Tick, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock, tick, tock. This week, my imagination was tickled by a subject that isn't readily or easily able to be grasped uh, most effectively by maintaining a three-dimensional perspective on life. This subject is quantum entanglement. Yeah, the quantum field. If you Google up quantum entanglement and stuff, you'll get a lot of scientific jargon and description of scientific experience at a very microscopic level of the fact that light can be either a wave or a particle and shooting light beams, molecules of light through slits in a screen can, be either conjoined, parallel, or separate. Other factors that come up are if one observes, if there is an observer present to see this quantum entanglement taking place, it it's going to change just from the fact that there's an observer present. I'm going to spin that quantum entanglement just a wee bit further out, actually quite substantially. How to best do this in a way that you can feel it, probably, yeah. Let me just read you a quick excerpt from a book I've been reading called The Gay Effect. Think of it this way. You are everywhere at once. Quantum entanglement. Draw a circle in the sand, answer in the circle. You place your finger in one place and startle an ant. Suddenly, you place your finger in another place almost instantly. The ant thinks you have moved from one place to another at frightening speed. All it sees is the finger. Understand? You are always above the circle, and you didn't travel anywhere. This is entanglement, and it's a staple of multi-dimensional travel. How fast, this is why that song tickled my brain as I was getting here today. It's how fast is that travel between one point where you think you're at? Most people think of, we're in the season of Cancer, that rootedness. Where is that shadow that's under my feet? And is my connection to that rootedness? How entangled am I with that? And even as I was saying that and thinking about it, I go, I'm more inclined to not think of rootedness as being fixed in one particular place, but more roots, a connection, an infinite connection to place, but not place as a fixed dimensional reality. This is why I chose this particular scene behind me. Quantum entanglement basically states at the larger level, probably at the microscopic level as well, that like that situation with the ant, you are entangled with otherness. Otherness. What could otherness be? It could be beings not exactly able to be seen or cognized in our three-dimensional reality as being in a different space, a different zone from where we are. But quantum entanglement says that in the same instant, the very same instant, we can be in touch with them. They are in touch with us. This image, you can kind of see whoever was photographing this, that photographer, his image is in each one of these dewdrops. And you can see some are close, some are far away. And yet, in that very same instant, there's an essence of that rootedness that I was just talking about that's in play, that is in each one of those places. This is, a rudimentary, shall we call it, physical way of tickling your imagination as to what is quantum entanglement. And am I participating in it? Is this an essay question? I do pose them from time to time. It's not something that I want you to, wear your brain out thinking about. But pay attention, where do those insights that just show up in the life dance that we each are a part of, seemingly out of nowhere? Could that be quantum entanglement? Oh, yes, it could. Telepathy, a synchronicity whereby I just thought of somebody and I really wasn't paying much attention, but there they are. And it's just like their presence is felt. Can you feel the essence of Cancer at work right now? The moon tickling our imagination to really sense things that aren't necessarily right there in our three-dimensional perspective. And yet, that telepathic connection that we might sense with somebody else, it's right there, And if you do have those feelings, I suggest giving your friend a call. You might be very surprised that they may respond with, I was just thinking about you. The small world of entanglement that we live within. Let's take a look at the chart for this week and see what the heck is going on. We have, probably it's Sunday right now, so I'm sitting here and I've been thinking about this square aspect happening between Mars and Uranus that has been essentially forming over the past several days and will continue to be in play for several days. And back along the way, whenever I thought of Mars, an impulsive, active kind of energy that it's got drive to it, and being entangled, there's our term for the day, with Uranus, shaking things up, not allowing things to become too comfortable, plopped into an area where you don't move much. I think of Mars and Uranus as that's an energy that rather radically shakes things up with impulse. There's a driving essence to that square aspect. And it is a square. These are, signs that aren't generally designed to tune in at the same energy wavelength. Fixed signs, earthquakes. There's a Mars, Uranus kind of an energy. But even beyond that, how about personal body quakes or geopolitical quakes? These are all very much in play during this kind of an energy signature. And you may have noticed a couple of them in play at the global level. I don't want to dwell too long on that. I just want you to be aware that if you feel the earth rumble under your feet, be aware that something is trying to potentially awaken you to create a pay attention moment, that there's likely something going on that, you're going to need to find grounding. We're in the season of Cancer, being rooted or in tune with your roots. That is a grounding place to be. And the moon, our wondrous moon. Here we are. This is Monday we're looking at. On this day, what do we have as well? The moon gets to its first square, which basically was at 4 degrees of Libra. The first applying square of any planetary pair is a crisis in action. So we're talking here about, Libra. That's where the moon is. And some kind of a crisis energy in the actionable field of what transpires when I'm in the process of relating with somebody else. And this is a square again. These are energy, air and water. They don't necessarily turn around to the same song playing on the radio in the same fashion. So there's an energetic edginess, we'll call it, to that. So you have to ask yourself, these are both cardinal signs, Cancer and Libra. Cardinal signs are about the initiation of something. Cancer is trying to initiate us into our connection to our family, to our home, to our ancestors in some fashion that we might generally not be tuned into. But I have to suggest it would be overtly helpful to pay attention to that ancestral linkage that you come from. And I'm going to, shift that out a bit. And the reason why is because I want you to think about that song that I started this out with. Time keeps on slipping into the future. Well, 3D time does that tick, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. But time, and this is where the quantum entanglement comes into, actually is happening all at once. The past, the present, the future, these are all energies entwined, entangled, if you were, with one another. And what we accomplish in our everyday life right now has effects that can bring something dynamic in that so-called past time frame, as well as spin energy into the future to allow something to take place in the now. Each one of these really is a now that's transpiring. Things to think about here that you just probably don't normally tune into. Anyway, that was the first aspect that this week I see. Also, I'm just looking at my notes. On this day, Monday, you can kind of see that Mercury here said it's just gone into the 29th degree of Gemini. If I zip it ahead one day, you'll see that it's already gone into the second 1 degree of Cancer. So it's zipping along. So the energy shift out of Mercury, out of the sign Gemini, which it has rulership with, into Cancer. Mercury, what am I thinking about? What do I want to talk about? And it's just shifted out of the realm where thinking and talking and communicating and learning are all right on the table, because that is Gemini's realm, into Cancer, where we're being asked to think differently. Are my thoughts allowing me to connect with my family, with my roots, and with my connections to my lineage? I can't answer that for you, but I could suggest that there's a lot more going on than we realize. And this mercurial shift into Cancer says that from the lunar perspective, ruler of Cancer, I need to not just necessarily think or talk about the experience, but I need to feel it. I need to actually, tune in at a level where I sense the experience of connection at work. Not just an airy fairy idea, but this entangled version of connection to places, things, people, beings on so many, many levels. And in that, you know, put out the invitation. You know, what is it that I might need to know here where I am, that what it is that you are, beings from wherever, are aware of, that will be helpful to me, that in my growth from that awareness, I can enhance your world. Quantum entanglement. It is a two-way street. Okay, let's jump ahead a couple days. The next thing I notice, you can see Venus and Mars. They're dancing together in Leo. Leo is taking chances. So we have the experience of the masculine and the feminine energies, possibly discovering some level of entwinement with each other that doesn't necessarily portray one as being superior to the other. Both are required in any circumstance that we are involved with, as long as we are human beings on this planet. We are required. We each have a masculine and a feminine part built into us. And, you know, that's just the way life is. Sometimes we feel very, romantic and feminine. And sometimes that masculine drive to conquer is, hard to ignore. Uh, the next energy is, let's go. What day are we on? Wednesday. Thursday. Okay, not quite Thursday, but you can kind of see Mercury sneaking up on the sun. Venus is slowly sneaking up on Mars, but that's not the point I'm going to make. Here it is. See this Neptune over here? See that white S that just appeared there? We'll go back one day. Now watch. That means that Neptune has stationed It's no longer moving forward. Here at the 27th degree of Pisces, it's going to, step back into the Pisces realm for a while. Let me look at my notes. Looks like it's until the 6th of December when it'll go direct again. And at that point, it'll be at somewhere around 25 degrees of Pisces. So it's only going back a couple of degrees. It doesn't seem right. Yeah, only going back a couple of degrees. It might be 24 degrees, but it's close to 25. So we have Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune. These three planets all in retrograde right now. Neptune just stepping into this on, what day is it? On Friday this week. And on the same day, you will notice that Mercury here at 7 degrees, 51 minutes of Cancer, almost 8 degrees, and the sun at 8 degrees, 35. And Mercury is definitely moving a lot faster than the sun. And it's not retrograde, which means it's on the far side of that glowing ball of fire. Well, when Mercury crosses over the sun, that's known as a Casimi moment. Something from back in the Hellenistic days. And Casimi, when a planet is in the heart of the sun, it's given privileges. Think of the sun as this solar directive. The sun can also be seen as the king. And when a planet is in the heart of the king, think about your heart. When someone is in your heart, do you not wish to provide them with opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily extend to just anyone? Well, that's what Casimi means. And the king, in this case, the sun, is offering to Mercury how we think, what do we want to learn, and what do we want to speak about, is being given the privilege of solar awareness. Don't think small. It's all right, because you're being given this enhanced glow of perspective. And this is a fast aspect. So during Friday, maybe just a hint of Saturday, pay attention. It's likely there will be insight that shows up. And this is where I would bring you back to that quantum entanglement idea. How many of these spheres of glowing reflection are going to be touched in that Casimi moment? How many connections do you think that you will have during that time frame? It's up to you to recognize it. I cannot hand it to you. All I can do is to let you know that it is a possibility. Okay. One last aspect that comes into play. Remember how we started out the week with Mars essentially being square to Uranus and Venus chasing it? And now Venus is exactly square to Uranus. Venus, that receptive part of ourselves, and in the fifth house, willing to take a chance on connection that might suddenly appear in our worlds. And, that fifth house gambly kind of nature says, can say, Would this be a good time to make love? That is a fifth house thing. Repercussions of this, of course, are making children. So do it wisely. But it's in the air. This is a square. It's saying, am I willing? Am I going to take that kind of a chance? Or should I just be cautious? Well, we're talking Uranus here. I'm got my cord of my microphone all tangled around the chair arm. It's up to you. Just be aware. Mars and Venus are still together. So the idea of relationship is not very far from the surface. Here in the realm of Leo, where, you know, the inspiration, shall we call it, to take chances, it's there. I'm not going to tell you which kind of a decision you should make because we each have to make that to ourselves. I might, however, suggest that since quantum entanglement or connection is very much in play when you become aware of it, what other beings, what other energy substance might be in connection with you? And what nudges might they be inspiring in you to do something that maybe you haven't done before? This is an interesting week, and that quantum entanglement energy that crossed my plate is not the first time in my life that it has, but this week it came in from a couple of different sources, and those each, when I fit those sources together, the entanglement was at work. I'm inclined to share that with you so that you don't get stuck anywhere thinking that, oh, there really is no options to the experience of what's going on in life. Bull. There are always options. And our attitude that we assume in any of those moments is the key. What is your attitude to the experience of life? I was visiting a friend this week, and she had her new boyfriend over. She says, "Oh, Jeff's an astrologer." And he goes, "Oh, do you believe in astrology?" I said, "Absolutely not. I do not believe in astrology. Astrology is a language. It's it's like Spanish or Latin or, Hawaiian. It's a vehicle with which to express things that don't generally fit into our day-to-day types of conversation, except unless, of course, we might be hanging with other astrologers where we're all speaking that language. But as an astrologer, being able to spin the language in such a fashion that it can be understood at the appropriate level that each of us needs to is the key. Because when you travel to a foreign land and they're speaking a foreign language, body movement to try and describe things is very much in play. Astrology is a language. It vibrates, it pulses, and in me sharing with you, I'm trying to give you insight into the celestial language that is going on all the time. And so each week, these celestial chatters are the best interpretation that I can give you from my perspective of what these planets are, saying to one another And perhaps, if you happen to be interested, you might want to listen, tune into that and say, now, where does this fit in my world? Can this be a benefit for me? Are there things that I need to be aware of to be cautious about? All options. Anyway, that's all I have for this week. And we will see you all next week. Ciao.